Hey guys, welcome back to the Obi Thorin Alliance. What are we doing today, Jacob?
We're reviewing a movie, Woody Harrelson, Champions.
So stick around and see what we thought of Champions. So I'm going to apologise in advance. I've had a bit of a sore throat, so I sound a bit croaky, so I apologise if that's annoying. So let's get into Champions. So Jacob and I were lucky enough to be invited to go see this movie early before it came out. For those that don't know, Jacob actually plays basketball at a really high level in Special O and Iverberg, and his team was invited to see a special screening of this movie. Basically, the movie is what, Jacob's team does. So you want to summarise Champions for us?
So basically, it is starring Woody Harrelson playing his third basketball movie, and his goal is to make the NBA, and he is coaching in a level behind the NBA, and he's an assistant coach and breaks the law, and then he serves community service with a Special Olympics team with people with disabilities for 90 days.
So very similar to other movies that have done this concept, but a bit of a different twist on it. So he gets put to be the coach of this team. He grows to enjoy the players grow to enjoy him. They have success, and eventually they make it to the Northern Conference Regional Championships, and they have to go to Winnipeg in Canada. So they go there. We're not going to spoil the movie. They go on to the championship game, and then something happens in the championship game. But the movie's more about discovering, building a relationship with people with disabilities, realizing that these people with disabilities have a lot to them. They live in group homes, they live independently, they have jobs, they play in bands. They're more than what they perceive on the outside, and then also it breaks down the stigma of using the R word in this movie, which is said a few times, but each time someone does, it's kind of pulled up and explained why it's not acceptable.
It does a really awesome job sport movie with people on the spectrum, but unfortunately it doesn't do anything special when it comes to a sporting movie. We've seen this plot before many times, but the end was really special with them not doing something really predictable. With how the word champions, you think it will do something predictable, but with the ending it doesn't. And I like it as someone on the spectrum that they show that someone achieving something means more than the end goal, but as the sportsman in me thinks I would like them to do something else, but overall really enjoyed it. I gave it a 84 overall. Really enjoyed the casting. The acting was fantastic. The story was still excellent, but the originality really hurt it. Have seen this plot before. The coach wants to make the NBA, doesn't make it, has to coach a team or people that he's not used to, and then he goes to like them. He gets offered to do something else. We've seen this done before, but besides that, highly recommend seeing it if you want to be uplifted and see people on the spectrum, and maybe taught how people on the spectrum can play sports like everyone else.
So I gave it 83%, just slightly below Jacob. I totally agree. I think the casting was such a strong point. Woody Harrelson was great in this. Caitlin Olsen was, fantastic. I'm a big fan of her from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Each of the actors that they got to play the characters with disability obviously also had disabilities, but they did a fantastic job in playing those roles, and their acting skills were second to none. So it goes to show that their disabilities don't hold you back from being an actor. The movie was extremely funny. I think it was somewhat predictable, but had some twist in it. Being unique was probably, as Jacob said, where it lacked the most. It's a story we've seen before. Mighty Ducks, someone crashes their car, drink driving, gets sentenced to community service at a rec center. Obviously the disability part changes a bit, but we've seen this before in other movies. It's not overly unique, but I think the ending and the little twist were unique. So really, really liked the movie, was engaged the whole way. Pacing was wasn't too long. It maybe could have went a little bit shorter, but it ticked a lot of boxes, and it's a really, really high score for a movie that a lot of people may not think to go watch or not give it a chance. But I think it was fantastic.
Yeah, definitely agree.
So should we move into some spoilers and talk about it a bit?
Yes, of course.
So, what did you dislike about it the most? On the way home, you'll explain to me that you thought parts of it were, not realistic. So, what can you talk to about that?
I know they made one of the players do his usual move, and you could tell it was going to matter throughout the story, and it was cool he got the shot in the rim, because if he actually made that shot, it'd be like, he never has made a shot before. It was more realistic they hit the rim, but part of me is like, well, one of the other teammates was completely open. Like, you kind of forsake the win over one person's happiness, and it's a team sport, so part of me was very conflicted about that.
It was an interesting one. I actually think it was a really good part of the movie because it was kind of a perfect cop-out. They could lose, but still have success. Makes the shot, everyone goes, well, we saw that coming. He's never made one. He makes it on the championship game. He missed it, which meant they lost. But it showed one camaraderie. This player was open under the rim, and he gave it to another player. And the coach goes, why'd you do that? He goes, he said he was open. Which I think speaks volumes of the type of players and their mentality. But also, you could talk to this probably better than I could, Jacob. But, for people on the spectrum, if you're told pass it to the open man, and someone says they're open, you go, well, I was told to pass to the open man, and you give it to them sometimes, even though you're like, well, I was open, but you go, I've been told to do this. And they do that through the movie a bit as well. When he gets taught the pick and roll, one of the characters stands still. And he goes, why are you standing still? You go, well, I was told to stand like a statue. Statues don't move. And he's like, yeah, but you got to move afterwards. But, he's fixated on that specific instruction. So I think it ticked a lot of good boxes there. And then when they were to lose, the whole team was ecstatic. They're like, oh, he hit the rim. I can't believe he hit the rim. And I was like, I actually think that's a better ending than them winning, because you expected them to win.
Yeah.
And ultimately the name champions was not because they won. He said they were champions, because of the things they achieved in their life. So I actually think it was a really, really perfect ending, and I'm glad it wasn't that predictable where he made the shot.
Yeah, that would have been annoying.
Yeah, I actually think it was a unique twist, and other movies could learn from that. Like, we've seen movies before where they missed the shot and you go, oh, we thought they were going to win. But this one was just a little bit special because they were excited that they lost, because they're like, he hit the rim. You can't believe he hit the rim. Like, it was the thing you've been wanting to do. So I think it's a unique ending that other movies, couldn't pull off. You mentioned as well you thought that the lack of defense shown in the game was unrealistic.
It was just noticeable.
It was noticeable, but my thought behind that is they're showing the highlights and they're going to show scoring. That's just the way that you go with a movie. You show the scoring as a highlight. And yes, when they scored, the defense was poor, but in any sport, when someone scores, usually the defense isn't poor. If the defense was good, you wouldn't have scored. So I guess they've got to try and show that or make the movie move forward.
That's true, yeah. One of the players was the best player, and he had an acquired brain injury. I don't know, I just felt like he played... What we saw as the audience, he played no games in the season, and then he was able to play the final. To me, that was a bit unrealistic.
Yeah, we wondered if there's like some kind of rule that prevented it, but my thought was, we don't know how much of the season he'd played prior to the mention. There was a mention that the previous coach had left before the season ended, so I didn't know if that meant that Woody Harrelson's character was taking over, or this was a brand new season. Like, it wasn't exactly clear what had happened there. That's my thought. I'm assuming he's already played, or maybe when they went away to this tournament, he had played lots of games. Like, maybe they didn't just play a final, maybe they played some knockout games or something, which made him eligible, but they don't really explore that. He was a registered team player. It wasn't like he was ringing, he just didn't play any games, so maybe he's considered injured. Who was your favourite character?
That's not Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, let's go out of the players. Who was your favourite player?
Person with Down syndrome that Woody Harrelson was dating his sister.
Oh, so Johnny, the one that didn't want to shower?
Yeah.
Why was he your favourite?
Oh, I just thought I liked how he memorisms and just how he acted.
I reckon my favourite, Martinez, the girl.
Yeah, she was
I think she was extremely feisty. She didn't really play.
No.
But, she just had funny things to say, great one-liners, and she motivated the team. And when they needed her, she stood up and got players to do things. If they came off and they're like, oh, I'm injured, I don't want to play. And the coach may have struggled to navigate that, because not only are you dealing with someone with a possible injury, you're dealing with someone that has special needs and, he wasn't equipped to that. But she was just like, no, harden up, get out there. And they're like, okay. Like, they just listened to her and they respected her. And, she was just funny, showing up, with a suitcase and a boogie board. Or when they went away, she's like, oh, I've got the skis. And she's like, oh, what do you need, got those for? And she's like, don't you mind? Like, I know what I'm doing. She was just funny, like a very funny character.
Yeah. So do you think we needed the relationship? Because I saw it coming once, Woody Harrelson's got in the car and then I had a attractive sister. I thought, oh, they're going to have a relationship.
I think so. Whether or not that would have exactly lined up, is another story. But I liked it. I think a love interest is nice. It kind of gave him context to why he would want to stay. Like, I know he would want to stay because of the players, but it gave him more reason to stay. He found love. And I think it was cool. I liked their story. I think it was good. I'm glad they had it, to be honest. I think they did it pretty well, minus the double breakup. I don't like it when movies are like, well, I disagree with what you're doing and you disagree with what I'm doing, let's break up. And they get back together and then they break up again. I think you got to just have one breakup. And then I think that would have been fine. So that's probably my only fault with that. Being invited to join the NBA, it's his dream. And he just walks away from it. Do you think that's just predictable, or do you think their reasoning for it was quite good?
Oh, I saw it coming. I thought it was going to be very much like in Big Shot Season 1 when he turned down to go back to college. Redeem the character. It's like, oh, he's doing it for selfish reasons, and it's like, oh, I want to get back the right way.
And I think as well, it wasn't necessarily he did it for the players. There was more to it because he didn't go back and coach them. He went on to coach another team, but he stayed in the area. And I like the fact that he made a new friend and he got the friend to become the coach. I think it was really cool. Yeah, there was a lot of things you saw coming, but it wasn't horrible. You saw coming that Showtime was going to go for a shot at some point. You saw that, she was that, when he got picked up and by Johnny, and he said, oh yeah, my sister's an actress, you could just tell as soon as she turned around, that's who it was going to be. When they first interacted, there was no way of knowing that she was going to later become a love interest. Yeah, there's a lot of, really cool things about it. I think there's a lot of nice messages in there. Probably question the way that they got their funding to go to the Nationals by kind of blackmailing a boss. I don't know if that plays out right, but it was still funny.
Where do you feel like they could have made the pacing better? Because I think that's the two areas this movie struggles, the pacing and originality it struggles with, because we've seen a lot of sporting movies do this sort of outcome before.
Don't know about originality. I think it's a good movie. It's just everything can't be original. Eventually you've got to follow something up or copy a similar storyline. But I think the pacing maybe pushed forward, their games, like got it a bit quicker, maybe player that sat out with the acquired brain injury got him involved a bit sooner. Like that kind of dragged on. Like you're like, when's that going to happen? When's that going to happen? Yeah, probably that. I think that could have pushed it. Maybe just cut a few little scenes down. It wasn't long. I just think it could have been, pushed along a bit faster.
Do you think we needed that storyline that he might have got the Phoenix job?
No, I think that was just trying to show that, a player, his mate, or some person that wanted to be his friend was...
Connected?
Yeah, connected and trying to keep him a friend. And it links into him, why he eventually becomes their coach moving forward. So it was just a made-up connection to link to, the next step.
Do you see them making a second one, or do you think this is a perfect one movie to see, to show Special Olympics to other viewers? And
I think it's a one-off, and I think it's a good insight. I hope that people go out and see it that don't like a vested interest or, a reason to go see it. I'd like people to just go see it and appreciate it for a movie. So I'm hoping it spreads beyond the disability community to, the mainstream population. That'd be nice. And I think everyone can take something from it. If you like a movie like The Ringer is one that comes to mind with Johnny Knoxville. Have you seen that movie? So in that movie, Johnny Knoxville, he's down on money. Might be one of his employees cuts off a finger or something and he needs to pay for his surgery. And someone's like, oh, you could rig the Special Olympics. Pretend you've got a disability. You're pretty good at track and field. You can rig it. So he goes there, pretends to be disabled, but he makes friends with all these other people with disabilities, and they're hilarious. Like, the movie is so funny, and it just has that same kind of vibe to it. Obviously, that has a more sinister nature to it, and a different message in the end. But it's shining a spotlight on people with disabilities, getting them to be acting in roles, and doing a great job. So I think people found The Ringer funny, and that was a hit at the time. I think this movie could do the same.
I hope so. Do you see Woody Harrelson winning an award or something for the movie?
I think he did a really good job, but I think the awards generally get left to, big blockbuster films. He unfortunately might just miss out because the film itself isn't going to compare. Not saying that Babylon was a better film, which it wasn't. It just is going to draw a crowd because of, it's got Brad Pitt in it, Tobey Maguire and whatnot. So, but I'm not a critic, and I don't pick the awards, so maybe he might get. I think it's deserving. I think he did a fantastic job.
Well, thank you for watching. Hope you go and see The Champions. It comes out March 9th. As always, hit the notification bell, like and subscribe, and see you next time.